All right, everybody, welcome into the Southern Football Podcast. This is your hosts, Drew and Steve. We're going to be sort of bringing you some, weekly football talk every week. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, so I'm going to let Drew sort of give you an intro to himself.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for joining in. As Steve mentioned, we are extremely excited to come to you guys, hopefully on a weekly basis, talk about some SEC, talk a little NFL action, of course, maybe a little fantasy sports. And kind of whatever else is brewing around the sports world where we live here in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama.
That's right. All right, we're going to start by talking about the upcoming season for both Auburn and Alabama. We're going to start with Auburn talk, and I'm going to let Drew sort of chime in on stuff because with him being an Alabama grad and stuff like that, me being an Auburn grad, it's going to give sort of two sides of the spectrum. The first thing I want to talk about is troubling trends with Auburn. It's been talk of message boards for the past, 2-3 years. It's almost like a cultural problem. It's what some call little brother syndrome. Like we want to, we sort of gauge our success on what Alabama does or does not do. And that's something that frankly, I'm not okay with it. We should be the best that Auburn can be, and whatever Alabama does is up to them. But I mean, it's something that honestly, it goes all the way back to, you could trace it back all the way to Shug Jordan. The fan base, alum, students had this sort of defeatist attitude. It was perpetuated, but not Bear Bryant's fault. He sort of had or seemingly anyway, had sort of a keep your friends close and your enemies closer attitude. You can look at the pictures of him taking Coach Jordan out hunting and stuff like that, and It's sort of troubling to see that with something that's supposed to be a bitter rivalry, and with from the Auburn side anyway, it was almost spun as if this is a friendly thing and stuff like that, when it wasn't approached that way from both sides. And to Bryant's credit, he exploited that, and we know what happened. I mean, they whipped our ass 9 years in a row, and the rest is history, I guess. But Auburn people also, one big problem I have with it is that they chose to name the stadium after this guy that won. I believe he won 2 SEC titles, and he did win a national championship, but he won 2 SEC titles and didn't really do a whole lot outside of that. I mean, he had a total of, I believe, three 10-win seasons. When we had coaches like Iron Mike Donahue that won 4 national titles that are actually recognized, and we don't claim them for some reason. But we could have named the stadium after him, or John Heisman, who's the namesake of the most prestigious award in all of sports. So I don't really know what to think about that. What's your take on it?
Well, it's interesting, Steve. I mean, I think that, as an outsider from the Auburn program, and obviously pulling for the guys across the street over in Tuscaloosa, I think it's interesting to note that seemingly it almost comes across as if the picture you're painting, which I think is fairly accurate, is of this legend in Auburn football who almost tries to set up almost like a Cinderella kind of castle or Camelot, just like this kind of false reality where you have an entire fan base, who's out there going, no, like, this is our bitter rivalry. Like, we need to win. We need to be better than them. And it's just interesting to see that the coach, the guy that's the head of the program, was the one who seemingly was more content than anybody else of having it be just this friendly ho-hum,
right,
let's go out and play. Now, I do have an interesting question for you.
What's that?
Do you think that some of this is potentially exacerbated by the fact that Alabama and Auburn are in the same division of the SEC West? And what I mean by that is, do you think that maybe this little brother syndrome would not be quite as bad or as prevalent if, Auburn ain't exactly far from the Georgia state line, What if Auburn were to be in the East and somebody like a Missouri were to come over to the West? I mean, do you think that would maybe solve some of that mentality?
I mean, that would be totally okay with me, honestly. We keep Alabama as our constant in the West, and that'd be fine. And, dude, how cool would it be for Auburn and Alabama to meet in Atlanta at some point?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty
I would
awesome.
say, given our recent trends and stuff, I would think that would happen more times than not, really.
Yeah.
But especially given the talent that Auburn's been able to pull, or supposedly, or whatever. But I was just going to go on to say another problem I have with it is it's sort of Auburn's it's almost like a holier than thou attitude, and I don't have a problem with saying we have values and blah 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 whatever. But it's almost like they're using that as a crutch to suck. And and that's something that's been that's something that's been prevalent on Auburn message board communities for a long time now. Specifically, the bunker, which is the biggest one on the internet for Auburn fans. But I've actually got a quote from our idiot AD Jacobs here. He says, "We do things the right way. You don't hear the Auburn people talking about it. Gus is on the hot seat, or he's got to win 8 or 9 games." Jacobs says. Auburn people appreciate it's historical for us. It's how our history is. Our past is that we want things done the right way. I know he's going to get it done. He goes on to say we're giving him everything he needs to be to get it done, be successful, whatever you want to say. But it's I don't know. I don't have any doubt that they're giving him everything he needs to do to get it done. But it's almost like it's a preemptive apology or excuse for if he fails this season.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's almost like they're already setting up a scapegoat situation where it's well if we didn't win, it's because we were trying to do things the right way. And at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but college football is a business, and to bring in that almighty dollar, you got to have wins, you got to have butts in the seat, and you got to have people spending money on your program, whether it be through donors, whether it be through ticket sales, whatever avenue you're going to pursue. You can't sit here and just go, you know what, we didn't win any games this year, but we sure did have a good attitude.
But see, I think therein lies the problem, Drew. It's almost like that's the attitude they're trying to have. And that's what troubles a lot of Auburn people. And I hate to put it this way, but it's almost like the old school, like the people that are Jacob's age and even older than that. They're the ones that have that attitude. Like, as long as we're doing things the right way and not getting in trouble, then everything's okay. But I've got news for you guys. We've been on probation the last 25 years. Yeah. It's not like we're pounding the pulpit or whatever and doing everything the right way all the time. There have been guys that have pushed the envelope. You have the Cam Newton situation too, which Auburn did not do anything wrong in, but they went after an athlete that had committed NCAA violations, or his father had anyway. So
I think it's interesting because the reality of the situation too is that when you have a winning program who brings in a lot of dollars, then I never want to sit here and say that you can cheat or anything like that, but you have these minor violations where you take a risk on a player, for example, who maybe has a little bit of a troubled past. Maybe he's got a rough upbringing. Maybe he comes from a rough part of town, whatever it may be. And maybe he goes out and makes a bad decision one night.
Sure.
Maybe he gets caught with marijuana in his car. Maybe he gets caught underage drinking, something to that effect. But if it's a major Tier 1 program that's winning championships, winning conference championships, it sure is a hell of a lot easier to make those problems go away.
Right. No, you're exactly right. That's exactly what they do with the Cam Newton situation, which is another thing. It's almost like we're going to do the right thing when it's convenient for us.
Right.
So in other words, if we're winning football games, like you said, we're just going to sort of be like, oh, okay, well, we'll get our compliance department to sweep everything under the rug, and it be gone. But when we're losing, we use it as an excuse, or not an excuse, but like a crutch, and say, well, we're doing things the right way.
We don't have any infractions.
Yeah, right.
You should be okay with the losing, because we're not in the news. But here's the question for you then. So what happens if we rewind back to 2010? What happens if we're sitting here in week 6? Auburn is struggled to win the games it has so far,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden things implode. All of a sudden, is that Cam Newton and Cam Newton's father, that situation, is that now a much bigger deal?
What do you mean exactly? Like, I mean, you're
recruiting,
talking if we continue to recruit Cam Newton and then he comes in and we're not winning the games that we did win.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
So in 2010, let's say you finish the year 6-6
So in other words, if Cam Newton is not the player they expected him to be,
how much bigger of a deal are the issues?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think he gets thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I do. I completely agree with you. There's no other way for that situation to go, right?
Yeah.
Jay Jacobs is going to sit here and try to,
right.
He's going to sit here as the ruler of this Camelot that Jordan created, and sit here and lay the guillotine down on the poor kid.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't know. It's something that's, honestly, that's personally frustrating for me because, I mean, like you're an Alabama graduate, I'm an Auburn graduate. I'm not a fan. I don't, I'm not like some, bumpkin that goes and puts on their Cam Newton or Bo Jackson jersey on Saturdays. I mean, that's, Auburn's a place that, I got my degree from there. I lived there, all in all for around 8 years. I love the town and, the people in it and everything like that. So I take it personally when someone tries to not be the best they can be there for, for the athletic department.
Right.
And, and honestly, Jacobs has, frankly, he's just sort of raked us over the coals with his salary, which he's more than paid out in buyouts. He's probably paid more in buyouts than he's made at his salary the whole time he's been there. So
right.
I mean, what is he actually doing?
I think Jacobs. I think one of the crowning achievements for his reign. That he wanted, I think he wanted to get that national championship for football, but also I think building that $93 million basketball arena.
Oh yeah,
that's what he that's part of a stamp in his legacy. Now, granted, it was a fiasco the first. When Tony Barbee with the coach, but swing and a miss there. Maybe should have gone and spent $100 million, but
right, yeah. I'm just saying. Well, swing and misses happen. I understand that.
Sure.
But I mean, what I won't tolerate is someone that preaches this like holier than thou. We're better than this and that and everything else. I mean, hell, we've had as many players get arrested as anybody else in the conference over the last. I guess since Jacobs has been there.
Well, speaking of swing and miss, and maybe looking at some of that, what do you think? What's looking good for the current team over there in Tigerland, and where do you see some question marks? I mean, where do we see the season going?
Well, okay. First of all, where I see some positives is it's supposed to be the best defensive line that we've had since. I'm going to say since. Probably, overall since 2004, 2005.
I was going to say 2005. For sure.
That's a team that had Quentin Groves, Stanley McClover, and a couple other SEC guys. Josh Thompson was an All SEC guy on that line.
Dansby at linebacker, I believe.
No. Dansby's last year was 2003.
Who was a big outside linebacker?
I think you're thinking about Quentin Groves. He actually played D-line at Auburn, but he's an outside linebacker in the NFL.
Thank you.
That's probably where you're going with that.
I've only got so much room for facts in this brain.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's sort of like on Married with Children when Kelly Bundy is getting quizzed with trivia stuff when you see E equals MC squared go in one ear and Garfield and Odie go out the other. But anyway, so like I was saying, the defensive line looks really good. There's two guys on there that have possible first round grades in Carl Lawson and Montrevious Adams. Montrevious Adams, honestly, if you watch him actually play, not talking about looking at the stats, but if you watch him play on the field, he reminds me a lot of Vince Wilfork. Honestly, I mean, I don't know that he has the potential to be like a 9-time All-Pro or anything like that, but as far as a collegiate player, he's a great player. And Carl Lawson reminds me of, again, just watching him on the field. He's got 5.5 career sacks, which is essentially 5.5 sacks that was in his freshman year because he's been hurt since then. But he reminds me a lot of Dwight Freeney. He's a sort of a short guy, but he's long, gangly, has just an incredibly explosive first step. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him taken in the first round of the draft next year. So,
how do you feel about if the defensive line is going to be kind of harkening back to that 04, 05 kind of group. Where do you feel the linebacker crew and the secondary are? I mean, how far along are they?
Look, I've always been a big believer in if you have good lines, it can make everything that much better. I mean, like Alabama's had that, where they haven't had. I mean, I don't want to say they haven't had great linebacker cores or defensive back cores, but they've been made to look better because of the defensive line.
Sure.
You look back at I don't know. I mean, we'll say the 2009 team, right, that had Mark Barron, who was the first-round pick, Dre Kirkpatrick, and D. Milliner. I think D. Milliner was on that team. Those guys were all first-round draft picks, and none of them really lived up to it, but it was because they had the great defensive line with Marcel Darius and a couple other guys like that were truly great players.
The biggest thing for, I think, that linebacker crew and a secondary, especially if you do have young guys out on the field, the advantage to that defensive line is if they're able to get up the field, put pressure on the quarterback, they're going to put the quarterback into some tough situations where he's going to make low percentage throws, and that's the name of the game. If you can protect your secondary, forcing a quarterback, to either throw on the run or throw these out routes that are tiptoeing the sideline, anything like that where you can utilize sidelines, back of the end zones as extra defenders and have somebody in the quarterback's face, you stand a good chance, to come out ahead more often than not.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Drew. I mean, that's, as far as the linebackers, on their own, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they're very good. I do like Trey Williams. I think he's a hitter. As far as in the secondary, it was with the linebackers. I mean, there's really not anybody else, to be honest with you. But, in the secondary, I've always liked Trey Matthews. I liked him when he was at Georgia. And I liked him last year before he got hurt. So, there are guys that can make plays back there. And, Rudy Ford, if you look at the most recent mock draft, so he was a projected second-round pick. So, that's a guy that can play. I mean, he sort of talked shit on Leonard Fournette and got his mouth shut for it last year when he said he didn't think it was going to be a big deal to stop him. But, honestly, man, as far as the corners, there's Carlton Davis, who I think is a next-level type player. He reminds me a lot of Carlos Rogers that was at Auburn. He's sort of in the mold of a Dre Kirkpatrick. He's a long, gangly guy. That has a good nose for the ball. He led the team in interceptions, I believe, last year as a true freshman, which is that sort of speaks for itself. So, I feel pretty good about the secondary, or as good as you can, for a team that's that is projected to win 5, 6, 7 games next year. But I tell you what, I'm not confident in is the quarterback situation. I don't know. Did you have a chance to watch Last Chance U?
No, I did not watch that yet. I've heard a lot of good things from you and other people. I need to get on the ball with that, actually.
Yeah, that's, John Franklin III, who is, it actually said at the end of the documentary, spoiler alert, that he was projected to be Auburn's starting quarterback going into the 2016 season. Honestly, man, I got to tell you, I did not see anything that made me feel confident in John Franklin other than his ability to run in the open field. I mean, the guy looks like a gazelle when he's in the open field. But he only played. I think I believe I'm right on this. It was episode 4 or 5 out of 6 that he actually got a start. Against, absolutely the worst that the JUCO ranks have to offer, and he had 6 total touchdowns in that first half, and that's the game Rhett Lashley was at. The Auburn offensive coordinator, and he made him a hard offer based on that. Is what it seemed like to me, and from the documentary. And like I said, he looked fantastic in the open field and stuff like that. But he's not playing receiver or running back; he's playing quarterback. So.
Well, how often? In all fairness, too. How much running room and how much time are you going to get to run around in the SEC West, where you have some of the fastest defenses in the country?
So to address that, to be fair, I do feel like they were looking at him more as a. So what they're trying to do, or what they say they're trying to get back to anyway, is get back to the zone read style that they had with Nick Marshall.
Okay.
More where it's more throw the ball, between 10 and 14 times a game. That's where Gus has had his most success. So I feel like that's that's what they were trying to accomplish with the recruitment of John Franklin III. But again, if the guy If he was honestly, man, if he was that good, then he would have been starting on his JUCO team, and he wasn't. It was
yeah, that's the only question mark I would have is coming into what you want to be a top-tier SEC program, supposed to lead the team to at least maybe a division title, if not an SEC championship, and the guy wasn't even starting on a JUCO team. I got serious questions there.
No, you're right. And also, I mean, he was at Florida State before and was slated to be. Honestly, I believe it was third team because I mean, there's a reason they recruited Everett Golson at FSU. So. As far as last year, so it's I don't know, but one bright side is that there's a really good group of young receivers coming in that should help a lot. We signed the number one recruiting class for receivers in the country. It's probably the best group of receivers out of high school we've ever had. There's, the headliners are Nate Craig and Kyle Davis. I will tell you, you need to, if you haven't already, you need to Google or need to YouTube search Nate Craig Myers, or it may be under Nate Craig, and look at his YouTube highlights. I mean, they're really spectacular. He as far as like stature and everything, he reminds me a lot of Amari Cooper, actually. That there's highlights of him. I mean he's stiff arming guys and making these circus catches and stuff like that. So and I mean he's got the endorsement from Damian Craig and everything else. And Kyle Davis is he's a bigger frame guy. Nate Craig Myers is 6'2". I guess not quite 200 pounds, but Kyle Davis is a 6'4", 215, 220 guy. He kind of reminds me of as far as past Auburn receivers. He reminds me a lot of Courtney Taylor, who went on to have like say an 8 or 9 year NFL career. Played with the Seahawks, and so I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic actually about the receiver class. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Drew?
No, I mean I'm really excited. I mean, obviously we can we'll talk a little bit about the Tide, but I do think I think for Auburn fans, I mean I think that it's going to be interesting. I mean, I as an outsider again, I mean I'm kind of looking forward to seeing whether Gus is able to put the pieces together with this group that he's got. I mean, again, the quarterback question is the big one for me, but speaking of the Tide, that's something we can definitely talk about pretty extensively with our team as well. But no, I mean, I think the Auburn Tigers are in for a fun year, and I think the Auburn fan base should absolutely be excited to see what I think could very easily turn out to a 9-win season.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked at that. But we're going to take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening. And welcome back to the Southern Football Podcast. We appreciate the break. We're going to go right into talking about Alabama football, actually. So I'm going to let Drew start us off.
Yeah, so a few things for the Tide. Obviously, coming off a national championship and several guys getting taken in the draft. I think there are, the biggest questions on people's mind is, will the Tide be as good as we were last year? A few points. Really, I think one of the big ones that I've heard a lot about is people with the question at the quarterback position, right? So who is it going to be? Are we looking at a situation where a freshman, Jalen Hurts, could be the lead dog? Are we looking at Blake Barnett? Could we potentially, be looking at Cooper Bateman, who's a junior? Look, regardless of what the battle ends up shaking out as, let me tell you one thing. The last 7 years, the Crimson Tide has won 4 national championships. 3 of those years were with a first-year quarterback.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's definitely a trend. Like Auburn's 2 national championship appearances since 2010 have been with first-year quarterbacks. So it's not like a, it's more about, like I said, it's more about the lines and the supporting cast than anything.
Right. I think Saban has proven that a first-year quarterback isn't going to give him any problems. We had some struggles last year and still managed to put together a good year.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have a starting quarterback until like the third game,
third game in
of the year. Yeah.
It's a situation that, there's some question marks, and I think as a fan, of course, you'd like to have those questions answered sometime around not far after the spring game, I think is the expectation sometimes. But, again, the Tide is built what I consider is going to be one of the best defenses that we've seen in quite some time, especially considering that we've got some true pass rushers. We've got what is arguably going to be one of the best secondaries in the conference, probably the best secondary that Saban's had under his tenure. And, honestly, whatever quarterback we get, most of the time I feel like we're going to be playing on the right half of the field anyway. So if the quarterback, regardless of whether he's, a stud or not, if he's only got to move the ball 50, 60 yards, I don't really feel that worried.
Yeah, honestly, you say that they've had, what was it you said? They've won 4 national championships, and they've had
three out of the 4 have been first-year
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, honestly, when you give a defense, when you give an offense that short of the field because of a great defense, stuff like that's going to happen. You're going to win games 20-13 and stuff like that, and 20-6 or whatever. Honestly, I think as far as the guy that has the most NFL potential, a lot of people have said that Barnett does, and they'd sort of like to see a marriage with Kiffin and Blake Barnett for a couple of years. But I don't know. It's I don't know. Lane Kiffin's track record with quarterback speaks for itself.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is that we're fortunate that we've got the guy who's at the helm of the quarterbacks right now has proven that he knows how to coach them, and not to mention the fact that we're going to have 2 guys in the backfield, that are going to bear some of that load as well. Scarborough is certainly going to bear a lot of the weight of running the football, and I think going to do a fantastic job there. I can't wait to see. The fact that we've got a couple of guys that are eerily similar to some of these guys that we've had in the past already.
Definitely.
So it's the Alabama. I really don't think that with our team right now with the kind of dynasty type situation or whatever you want to call it, whatever words you want to use that Saban has set up. We never really lose a bunch of people. It's just constantly reloading the stables.
Yeah, honestly, as far as stature goes, honestly, Bo Scarborough reminds me a little bit of Trent Richardson.
Yeah, yes.
His build and everything like that. He's sort of a compact runner, and not a real tall guy like Mark Ingram, but can put his head down and get a yard or 2. And honestly, now we'll say this though: this is the one year that they haven't had a strong, proven running back coming back. Last year they had Henry and Drake. The year before that they had Yeldon. Is that right?
Yes, Yeldon.
Yeah. So that's going to be a challenge. But there's been nothing to see. Or we haven't seen anything that makes me think that they're going to have any trouble replacing them. Especially with a good offensive line supposed to come back.
Well, I think for me as a Bama fan, the scariest thing for me is that 3 of our toughest games are all going to be on the road.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
That's a tough thing to do. The fact that we're going to have to go to Ole Miss. Tennessee actually does kind of scare me a little bit this year. I don't know if this is the year that they're finally going to put the pieces of the puzzle together up there. I just don't know. There's so much, much of a wild card situation.
No, honestly, they've been pretty close in those games the last 2 years, right? So
right, and that's the thing. And then we've of course. November the 5th, the big one circled on my calendar is the fact that we're going to have to go into Death Valley to play LSU, and most likely that will be a night game.
That's they're going to have that one circled too. LSU, because of the debacle that happened last year in Tuscaloosa.
Well, and I think too, the other thing is just in light of all the recent things going on. That LSU football team. For what the city of Baton Rouge is going through.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that.
The LSU football team is going to be the light on the hill, for those guys and for the people of that community. And I think that that team has a lot on its shoulders because they have, the scene is already set for them to be that kind of Cinderella story or that, just that knight in shining armor for an entire city and state. So, they're going to have a lot of responsibility, and I think they're going to be pretty motivated to come out and play some football. And I think that, again, we've got a lot of talent. The quarterbacks that we're questioning are all 4- and 5-star recruit type guys.
Yeah.
We've got some good running backs. We're going to have a great secondary. We've got a good pass rushing defense. The linebacker crew being led, Reuben Foster, I think is going to do a great job leading those guys. The question, though, is the biggest thing is, of course, all that being said, is you have guys without game time experience.
Yeah.
And in the SEC West, that's a tough thing to do. It's a tough division to come in and be thrown into the middle of something and going, especially when you're playing teams right? When we play a USC to open, somebody that we don't see that kind of offense very often. We've got to go into Ole Miss, so there's a lot of pressure on that game. Mm-hmm. We're going to be at Arkansas. They want to beat us after the past couple of years.
Right.
And who knows, maybe Buellum will finally, I'm telling you with him, by the way, he could do, all he needs to do is just go out and get an Arkansas tattoo on his ankle right above the Wisconsin one. That being said, going to Tennessee, Texas A&M, we've got a lot of tough games kind of in a row. And I mean, it's a lot of different types of offenses that we're going to see. And I think that we're going to see a lot of running and gunning. I think we're also going to see a lot of people just trying to put their hats down and run up field on us. So it's going to be an exciting one to watch. I mean, fortunately, as a fan, I can tell you that, we've been fortunate enough to see a lot of national championships recently. So, I do want to go ahead and say to all the Bammers out there who think that we're going to win a national championship every single year, maybe go see a psychiatrist. Don't be quite as delusional. But, I do think we will be in the running again. That SEC West division title is definitely attainable if we can get some big road wins. And then, who knows who we may see out of the East this year. Certainly Kirby Smart maybe being able to put things together over at Georgia. Florida looks like they're going to be a lot better, especially now that they got Spurrier down there to help. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And, I mean, I think that, just in general, the SEC this year I'm telling you, man, I'm excited. We got a lot of great football to watch, and I think we're going to have some fun. But the big question is going to be, what players are left to play after all the off-season trouble?
Oh, goodness. Yeah,
with the arrest. And
yeah,
God knows what else.
They're all like high-profile players, too. This isn't this isn't some walk-ons or whatever.
Yeah, whatever happened to the walk-on third-string kicker going out and getting drunk at a party?
That's what, like Chris Carter said, you got to have a fall guy. You got to have some schmuck that's going to go out with you and hang out, and then claim the weed is his when you get caught with it, or the coke or whatever.
No, that's a great way to put it. I mean, why are all these guys going out just by themselves?
You're right. They could take some nerds like us with them when we were in college. We'd be like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, I'll take the fall for it. But no, I mean, like at Auburn, they had Byron Cowart and Carlton Davis, probably our two or three best defensive players, get caught with weed. There was in-house discipline there, according to Gus. And so, honestly, I don't have a problem with it. That's, if I'm being totally honest, what I really don't have a problem with is them being able to play on Saturdays. That's the, I don't know. I mean, that's another, sort of a false, false piety thing is how, guys are like, oh yeah, we took care of it in-house or whatever, when all they're really interested in doing is winning football games.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, honestly, I do not think that we're too far away from, I think in the very near future there could be some, just considering what's going on nationally with states legalizing marijuana and things like that, it would not surprise me if that doesn't become an offense before long. I mean, I know it's an NCAA violation, but you're also looking at teams and states where marijuana is legal. So is it really fair to police a player who goes home on the weekend and does something that the state government considers legal?
No, you're right.
Because is the NCAA now all of a sudden a branch of the government that can do things like that? Are they a police force? I mean, yes, there are certain stipulations, and when a player comes on and you have a responsibility to that university and to the NCAA, and I get that. All I'm saying is, if something is legal in certain states versus others, it'd be like a 21-year-old player getting in trouble for having a beer.
Right.
And that's just kind of where my problem is with it. But
I see both sides of it.
The fact of the matter is they broke the law here.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I guess what I wanted to say was, like you said, sort of a standard for what you can or can't do. But it's almost like when it's convenient, you sort of ignore the rules with it.
Right, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. But I mean, Alabama, they had Cam Robinson and Hootie Johnson. Is that his name?
Right.
I couldn't remember his name when I was typing up the stuff yesterday. But I mean, it was essentially the same thing. There was in-house discipline with them.
The big question mark there, though, is you've got, you've got even the state DA over there, chose to not resume. So,
right.
It's just a little bit different situation, I guess. I mean, if there's no charges filed, then and perhaps this is where we're going with that anyway, is, the fact that, again, no charges are filed. Saban said it at SEC Media Days when he was talking to Feinbaum. He said, hey, there's no charges filed. Innocent until proven guilty.
Period.
Now,
you're right.
We're going to enact our own in-house discipline, and by God, he's absolutely right for doing that.
Yeah.
They have certain standards that they expect the players to hold up to, and that's Saban's rule. You want to play you want to play for Nick Saban? Follow Nick Saban's rules.
No, you're right. And he has the ability to sell that. Like, you want to come here and you want to be a NFL draft pick, first, second, fourth round, whatever. This is what you have to do. I mean,
exactly. This is the lifestyle you have to live. Yeah. This is our expectations. Right. And
if you don't do it, you're out.
Right. And I think that again, I mean, do I really have an issue with the way the situation was handled? No, not really. I think my only complaint is just the media making it more of seemingly trying to make a bigger deal than it was. Again, at the end of the day, no charges were filed. So
no, you're right.
Let's move on.
Right.
I mean, the fact that Feinbaum, tries to bring this up to Saban at media days, and that got obviously completely shut down.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. And Feinbaum, what a gutless little turd. I mean, if he was going to bring it up, he should have been but I mean, he ran off like a dog with his tail between his legs. I mean, he was.
Yeah, that I did not understand. I mean,
if you were going to commit to something like that, you could see it through. I mean,
it would be like that climactic scene in A Few Good Men, where Tom Cruise is questioning Jack Nicholson, right? But then he just turns around and he's just like, never mind then.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Your Honor. I guess I'm going to be arrested for questioning a superior officer.
Pussy. Anyway. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. And that is, that's something we talked about earlier in the week, and that is college athletics being treated as big business. What's okay? Honestly, I know what my stance is on it. What's yours?
I don't know, man. It's a tough thing because as a parent, I got to say, if my kid was offered his junior year the chance to make probably, an additional $5 to $10 million signing bonus, I got to tell you, I'd probably tell the kid to take the money and run, and then come back and finish school later if he felt like it. You look at certain examples of like a Leonard Fournette where, people are telling him he should sit out and this, that, and the other. I don't know, man. Honestly, to me, it's a player development thing. If you have a player that is legitimately ready to go to the NFL, now granted, that does not just mean athletically, right? As we've seen with certain other people, Johnny Manziel, cough, cough, it's not just athletic ability. It's you have to be a mature human being and a mature adult. But if somebody exhibits all of that, then by God, go on.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with it because at the end of the day, when the University of Alabama is going to bring in, that football program is going to bring in an additional $100 million in revenue to the city this year, it is a big business.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's, I 100% agree with you. Now, and I will say the one thing I have a problem with is, it's not just something to do with those kids. As far as there's, like you mentioned Leonard Fournette, about, sitting out or whatever, his junior year. But I mean, there's, 21 other starters, 23 if you count the specialists or whatever. But I mean, there's, 21, 23 other starters or whatever that work their asses off to try to win football games for LSU. And I don't think it's fair to, for one guy to be like, what, I'm just going to go sit out over here. Especially a guy that's been the centerpiece of that.
So do you then think that it would be better if there were qualifications, or they should have to sign a contract to stay?
Okay.
Because, I guess then the only type of scenario I could imagine is that if you're considered a 4 or 5 star recruit, you have to have it somewhere in a contract that you stay for 4 years. Is that what you're proposing?
Yeah. Okay. So what I think is, this is how it is in baseball. Okay. So if you go to college, you have to stay for 3 years. End of story. That's it. Or you can go straight out of high school. That's what I think it should be.
So players would be allowed to go straight out of high school into the NFL.
That's right. Yeah. So if Leonard Fournette wanted to go straight out of high school to, enter the draft or whatever, he'd be able to do that. But if you decide, I want to go to LSU, then you have to stay for 3 years.
So I guess at that point, then the age requirement to go into the NFL or whatever.
There's not really an age requirement. It's
it just happens
from
to
high
be.
school.
Yeah. So that being a moot point, then you remove any sort of general age boundaries rather and just say, hey, if you go to college, you got to sign that you're staying at least 3 years.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, then so let me ask you this. What's going to stop a guy in that third year from going out onto the practice field right before week 1, acting like he's got a concussion and seemingly sitting out for half, 3/4, or a full season?
Well, there's nothing. There's nothing stopping him from doing that now, though.
True. So I guess I just don't, Again, personal opinion, I love that idea. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
If somebody's good enough to go out of high school, let them. Who cares? Yeah. Now, granted, do I think that an 18-year-old running back is really ready to go out of high school and get drilled by somebody like a Ray Lewis?
No, he's not. But I mean, that's that's another thing. Like, of course, Major League Baseball has the minor league system where you can go and develop, and that is essentially college. So
yeah, so I guess then the question would be, though, if they don't go to college, what sort of developmental program would they be in?
That's up to them. That's what college is for.
Sure.
Is to help you develop into a great player and stuff like that. And
granted, I will say this. I also, aside from playing devil's advocate for a second, I do agree with you that they should have to stay 3 years, mainly because I also feel like it's more than just investment from the coaching staff. That university has also made an investment, and the fact that you're getting free room, board, books, and an education, then they should be held accountable for that.
That's what I was saying before about there being 22 other starters or 21 other starters, whatever, that do want to win football games.
Well, and what happens to the kid who can't get into What happens to the kid who can't get into LSU because their maximum roster for that year? You know what I'm saying? So there's a kid who wants to grow up to be a doctor or an engineer or may put us on Mars one day, can't go to college because Leonard Fournette took that spot, and then all of a sudden he's bailing.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking like just regular academic enrollment, right?
Uh-huh.
So like the university's only going to take so many students per year. So I'm saying the other thing that's not fair about it is that if a student athlete takes up that education spot and then a citizen.
Okay. So if you decide to sit out, then you're done. Like you just sit at home or whatever.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But he's already taken up 2 years, and some kid may not have gotten to get in.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that is the free market. That's if you decide you want to take a chance on a kid, then that's up to you.
No, sure, yeah. Just I would personally like to see kids finish out their education.
No, yeah. That's and look, and I'm not some big advocate for we've got to educate the kids or anything like that. But I don't know. I just I've been in situations, and you've been in situations where we're counting on other people, and they just bail with no consequence or anything like that.
Right.
I just don't think that's the right thing to do, and I don't think that's the right thing to teach young people to do. I don't know. That's just my personal feelings on it.
Sure.
But you look at comparing him to guys, that have done similar things like that. There's Jadeveon Clowney. Now, he did have a great preseason game last night where he had a sack, his first sack in 2 years.
Right.
But, he's one that, sort of, I guess I'd say unofficially sat out, with South Carolina in his last year there. He officially sat out his, it was, I think, the third to last game of his career there against Kentucky. And, and Steve Spurrier, basically lied to the media about him being hurt.
Yeah, to me, the thing that bothers me about that situation is just almost the conspiracy behind it.
Yes,
and like you said, you've got other players, Connor Shaw, Mike Davis, who are there, who are trying to go out and better themselves, better the program, bring a win to the team, and you got this kid who's I'm hurt today.
Yeah, well, no, that's honestly, dude, that could have made the difference between, Mike Davis getting drafted in the second round and the third round. Seriously, that's if you're looking at it from a money standpoint, which is what Clowney was. I mean, are you really going to bail on your friends like that, your teammates? I mean, I don't know. I just have a problem with that. And also Spurrier, which was, I think that was sort of the beginning of the end for him, is when he started covering for players. Like, oh yeah,
right.
And I remember specifically he said, since Jadavion's been here, we've had 3, or I guess at the time it was 2 11-win seasons, but they were on their way to a third. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's sort of a sketchy subject.
Well, at the end of the day, you can never, as the coach, as the one who's driving the ship at the helm, you can never put the player above the program and what the university stands for, because at that, that you're setting yourself up for failure. And as we saw, I mean, that was kind of like you said, the beginning of the end for Spurrier. But no single player is above the program they play for. As good of an athlete as they are, and you see it all the time in the NFL. You see it all the time in college where coaches cut players and things like that. Because, man, if you can't get with the picture, I mean, look at Johnny Manziel. Hey, you're a gifted athlete, but, dude, you can't get your shit together. You're not welcome.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you got to go. You got to go. You're poison to the team.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And just to run through some infamous holdouts, which is essentially what's being suggested. Again, I want to make clear, Fournette has not said anything like this, but anyway, if this podcast somehow makes its way to Fournette, just don't listen to him, man. But I mean, because these are the guys that are going to be in your company. There's Michael Crabtree, he's a pretty good player, but he's in Oakland now. He played with San Francisco and helped get him to the Super Bowl, but he never did live up to the top 10 draft pick that he was.
No, God,
given.
no.
And the odd thing is, I remember I was watching that draft when it happened in 2009. And so somebody, came over, Oakland and passed on to take Darius Hayward-Bay, which is fucking terrible. And so somebody came over to him and was like, San Francisco's going to pick you. He started crying, and he was like, thank God. In other words, like that Oakland had passed on him.
Yeah.
But, and he's playing there now, which is kind of odd.
Well, real quick, show of hands, who wants to play in Oakland? 0 hands going up.
Well, certainly at that time, I think now they're a lot better. With Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack and
better than they were,
picks.
But I still wouldn't be running down to the draft going,
no,
"Oh God, please let me go to Oakland."
No, again, but better than they were is 8-8. So,
well, I think that honestly, the worst part about Oakland is that you literally just look across the way and see San Francisco, and you're like, "Damn it."
Well, that would have been true before, of course, San Francisco's current situation I don't really want to talk about.
Well, yeah, but you still get to live in San Francisco.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're away from the, you know what, never mind. We're not going to get into that. Anyway, so there's another, another infamous holdout, Eli Manning. He's had a great career, Hall of Fame, maybe not quite Hall of Fame, but pretty close to that.
2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Yeah,
probably going to go down, and
he probably will be in the Hall of Fame.
Probably not a first-time ballot,
sort of a borderline Hall of Fame guy. But I mean, he came off as incredibly douchey, and I don't know if you remember that.
I
do. Basically his douchebag of a father, Archie Manning, who has this great reputation for being this bastion for philanthropy and everything else, and I think it's sort of a false. I don't know. I mean, I know he's given a lot of money, but I think he's an asshole, honestly.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But anyway, so.
Well, and then the other, I think my favorite is the big draft bust, the all-time draft bust, Jamarcus Russell.
Yes, yeah,
that
definitely.
Dude was the train wreck from day one.
Yeah, and he okay, and so to be honest with you, Eli Manning did not hold out, so that's a mistake on my part. But he was he basically threatened to hold out if San Diego drafted him and kept him. But yeah, no, Jamarcus Russell was a full-blown holdout. He was, and what makes it the worst is he was all, I'm so excited to be a Raider, all this other stuff, and then he was like, okay, I'm not going to play for less than, X amount of dollars. And so then that essentially hindered his progress from that point forward.
Well, I mean, God, and if anybody could have used the work, it could have been him. But, out of curiosity, does he, in fact, hold the record for the fattest NFL quarterback of all time?
Oh, he has to. I mean, that's, honestly, I don't think Jared Lorenzen ever took a snap at quarterback in a regular season game. So, I mean, I would have to say Jamarcus Russell is that, has that dubious distinction. He was absolutely horrid at every aspect of football. He couldn't run. He had a slow release. Now, he did have a strong arm.
He could throw at 60 yards, but he wasn't accurate.
Yeah, I mean, he could throw it 60 yards across the street, I guess. So it's, that's essentially what you'd say. I mean, there's guys probably living in this neighborhood that can do that.
Right.
He was fat. He was lazy. He was everything.
I mean, hell, Uncle Rico can throw a football over a mountain.
Yeah. Especially when he was in high school, he could have.
Oh, Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah.
And if this podcast makes it to Jamarcus Russell, just understand that, yes, we do all think you're that terrible, and you were a complete waste of money and time for everybody who ever watched you play football.
Okay, so I'll tell you how terrible he is. He actually seeked out, I don't know, like he was trying to make some sort of a comeback about 7 years ago, and he actually went to Jeff Garcia for training or whatever, and Jeff Garcia was like, "No, dude, you're fucking terrible. I'm not going to touch you." And that's and like Garcia said on another podcast when he showed up there, he said that this guy had a beer gut hanging over his belt and stuff like that. He was like, "Dude, if you were that serious, you would have already lost that. Like, I'm wasting my time with you."
All right, so before we move on, this will be a fun time to insert maybe in the comment section. If you have any ideas or have any insight, please reply with the hashtag "Where's Jamarcus?" I would love to see what some of our creative listeners might come up with.
There you go. I mean, I don't think the Jamarcus Russell, carcass needs to be beaten any more than it has been already.
Well, let's definitely touch before we get ready to close out. We got two big games coming up on September the 3rd. Auburn will be playing Clemson, the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, Clemson's actually expected to win easily in this one. I think it's going to be, I don't know, I think it's going to be around 35-17. There's one thing I've learned as an Auburn football fan is that you never know what you're going to get from Auburn.
Right.
It's that's one thing that's the topic of message board discussion is, our last 2 national championship appearances, or our only 2 national championship appearances, like in the actual game, have been when we're, we were not ranked, or maybe we were like top, like 22 or something like that in 2010, and we were not ranked in 2013. So you just sort of never know what you're going to get. And then that also plays into that we're at their best, they're at their best when their backs are against the wall, and that's sort of frustrating to me, honestly. But I mean, we sort of covered that in the cultural problems,
right,
with Auburn. But I don't know, it's and so like I said, I say Auburn gets beat by Clemson 35-17,
and the Tide.
One more thing. But I would not be surprised no matter what happens in that game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn wins in a close game or a blowout or they get blown out. I wouldn't be surprised no matter what happens. So
I would agree with that. For the Tide going to Dallas to play USC. USC is, I think, going to be a good team. I don't think they're ready to quite come up to the level that Bama's team is going to be. I think Bama is going to put a good win under their belts. Former Auburn grad Clay Helton leading the helm out there for USC.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. I think Alabama probably. I think the first quarter stays close. I wouldn't. Yeah, I see the first quarter ending probably 7-7, 10-7,
yeah.
7, somewhere like that. One score apart, maybe. But I think
not a huge gap, though.
No, yeah, and I think maybe going into halftime, and then Saban loves to score right before the half and then try, and then get the ball back.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
I think we could very quickly get up, 14 or 20 points early in the third.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Do you think you could see, like you said, a quick score before half, and then maybe get the ball back after halftime, it being 24-3 with, say, 10 minutes left in the third quarter?
Yeah, I think it's.
That's what I think too.
I think into the third quarter, I see Bama being up by 20 points.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think it'll be. I mean, honestly, man, I'm going to say it'll be 14-3 with 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and then they go up 21-3, get the ball back, and then it's like 28-3 or something like that.
Yeah,
or
I think.
24-3.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I like where your head's at on that 31-13 prediction.
Yeah, I think and honestly, like I think there will be like subs in the fourth quarter and stuff like that, or late in the fourth quarter, and I think it could be 31-6 late actually.
Yeah, I think I think I'm probably going more of kind of 37, maybe even 38-13, 38-6, somewhere in that range. So I think we're pretty onto that. One more thing I wanted to cover on. So one of my favorite things about football season is tailgating, or now that different life stage, being a little bit older, having people over at the house. So one thing that I look forward to is putting together some good food, some good beer for game day. And I know that this first game I cannot wait, because Alabama is going to smoke our competition. So in honor of that, I think we're going to do a couple of smoked pork butts, since we're gonna kick their butts all the way back to LA.
Well, I don't know when this podcast went PG on us, but
well, I'm just saying.
No, I'm just kidding.
Play with the words here.
Okay, so this is going to be a what you drinking, what you eating podcast.
Yeah,
this is going to be that section of it.
So we're doing. I know here we'll be doing some pork butts, and then I think for the beer, fortunately, a good buddy of mine got me some Focal Banger from the Alchemist out of Vermont. So some delicious IPAs that are going to go great with that.
Sounds fantastic.
With that pork butt.
Okay, and just so everybody knows, my favorite beer is Westbrook White Tie. It's THAI. I'm drinking Bud Light now, but that's because I'm cheap. So anyway, but anyway, so.
Well, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to add? Okay.
No, man, I just really want to say thank you guys for hanging out with us for about an hour or so today to talk about some football, talk about some cultural things going on at our alma maters, and hopefully Steven's going to give you guys a little bit more info, but I'm hoping you guys find the time to subscribe and check us out. And by all means, if there's stuff you want us to start covering or something like that, please do that in the comments and stuff. So.
All right, and we're going to leave you with a big War Eagle and
Roll Tide.
All right, and also don't forget, like Drew said, to hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Y'all have a good one. Bye.